exciting that we're in the Transport Museum. Switzerland may be a country which attracts people through its scenic splendour, its culture and cuisine, but the place works, and it works because of the transport system. I've never experienced a transport system that works like a Swiss watch. The metaphors come in on one another very quickly here. It's my job, I'm Tom Jenkins, it's my job really to say hello, and I've done my job, and I'm now going to hand you over to myself from the Lucerne Tourism Board. Please, what's up?
Thank you very much, Tom. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, welcome back to Lucerne. It's a great pleasure and honor having you here again for this European Tourism Summit in the Alps here in Lucerne. We are, as I said, very happy and proud to have you back. I think it's a perfect atmosphere to discuss about serious topics. I think we have a lot of challenges in the tourism industry, and it's always very important that we discuss together, that we analyze topics together to learn from each other how we can go further on. I think we are here first time in this wonderful building. It's going to be, should be inspiring and also very motivated that we're going to have a very interesting day today, and for me it's also a pleasure to hand over now to Alan. He is in charge of the sales of the Transport Museum, and for me as the host of the destination, I'm looking forward to have you back soon again in this wonderful destination, Lucerne, Lake Lucerne area, the lake, the city and the mountain. Welcome to Lucerne, enjoy it, and I hand over to Alan. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's very nice to welcome you in the Verkehrshaus. As Tom mentioned, the Swiss rail system is really very punctual. It's that punctual that you run and race to the train and it's 4 minutes past it leaves, but it leaves 4 minutes past 0000. So if you're 20 seconds too late, there it goes. Here we have the opportunity and possibility to see trains, planes, cars, and many other things. I was about 5 years old, small, blonde, blue eyes, and I touched a Monet. Did anybody touch a Monet in their lives? Well, it's that time when your parents meet the whole museum staff. Well, it's, here it's different. You can touch things, you're close to things. We have interactive things you can do, and what is really nice for the tourism industry, we are very much about Switzerland, Swiss people, Swiss achievements. So it's not only looking at objects, it's getting the stories of the objects, which makes it so much more interesting. So you will have time at 13:20 and at 17:20 to have a run on the Swiss Chocolate Adventure, which is a cooperation with Lindt, which is one of our famous brands. So we're very happy to have a cooperation with them. It's well worth it because you learn everything from A to Z about chocolate. You even get a small goodie, so that's very nice. And I do hope you do that. When you do that, then please take your business card, hand it to the staff, because then they know you're from ETOA, because I informed them, and they will let you in for free, otherwise you will have to pay full fare.
Operator today. I have a background in city tourism myself. I've worked with Visit Copenhagen for 15 years. Also worked with ECM, the Association of Marketing Cities in Europe. And I'm really glad to be here in Lucerne. What we will, from the programs, we will experience two sessions here today. The first session about disruption in the marketplace. So many new opportunities and challenges, like myself was talking about in our industry. We will meet some very interesting speakers this morning. And the plan is that we will have all three speakers in a row. We will put some questions in there. But after that, we will have a Q&A session, really a discussion. Because my goal with this morning and this conference also in the afternoon is to make a very interactive one. That's why I'm out here on the floor with you. And last night I was talking to Tom, and I said, Tom, what kind of meeting do you want to have here? And he made it very simple what the success criteria is. He said intelligent discussions. So that's up to all of you to be intelligent this morning and this afternoon, and I will do the discussions. Two pieces of information, very important always. Toilets, way out there in the back. They're Swiss, really nice, like the trains. And also the Wi-Fi works well, and you have little slips on the table if you need Wi-Fi during the meeting. But I think we will just jump right into it, and we have three fantastic speakers this morning. And Philip, you will be the first speaker. You are industry leader of Google Travel, and I will just really leave it to you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what you want.
Right, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Philip Rees. I'm working for Google in the Zurich office. Blessed to have 1,800 people in the Zurich office. Many of them work around a lot of products with us, but travel is one of the main products which we work on, and I will guide you through what we do here and across other Google offices. I've been with Google since 6 years in several positions, but mainly in the travel segment. So I partner with some of the biggest travel players here in Europe to deliver the best user experience together with them. All right, so what I want to show you in the first part is basically where are we coming from and what is the reason why we are here right now and why we did the things that we did in the last 5 years. I will guide you through that in approximately 10 minutes, and the 5 minutes at the end I want to give my opinion, not Google's opinion, where I see you can bring in more value to the traveler nowadays with all the changes that we see. So if you look at this slide, it's quite a busy slide. You see we came from basically a couple of years ago, it's not so long, we just had the 18th anniversary at Google. So it looked basically like at the top left. So you had a question towards Google, for example, hotel in the city, and you just got blue links, right? What we saw is that people came back and came back and came back with basically the same questions. So maybe the first question was hotel in Lucerne, and then they came back with hotel 3-star in Lucerne. They came back again and said hotel 3-star family friendly, etc., etc. So on average, we saw people in the travel segment, in hotels and in the flights segment coming back roughly 8 times with the same question. And then we said at that point, and it was in 2010, we said this user experience is somehow broken, right? Because what do we stand for? We stand for relevancy. We want to give you the right information. We want basically to give you the answer. And you see that in many aspects. I obviously focus on the travel, but you see it also, like if you really look for a fact nowadays on Google, this also changed. So if I ask Google with my voice or I write it in the search box, how old is Roger Federer? A couple of years ago, we came back with blue links. Right now, it says he's 32 years. You have a box of him. You see his family. This is called the knowledge card, right? So this is basically what is our intention. We want to give you answers as fast as possible. So what did we do the last 5 years? We did several stuff in the hotel segment. We did several stuff in the flight segment. We also did stuff in the destination area recently. And basically, this is how it looks like right now. So if you look at the travel journey, if we take our products, we have in the dreaming phase, we have more the destinations on Google, which I will go into afterwards. Then we have in the planning, Google Flights, because we see that many initiaries start with the flight search and not with the hotel search. So that's why we have the flight segment there. And what goes also in the booking, you will see that on the next couple of slides. And the hotel is more in the booking area. And now, just recently, a couple of weeks ago, we launched the Google Trips app, which goes in the experience phase, so the in-destination experience. So starting with destinations, and this is also a very important point that I want to bring over to you. So right now, we see in many, many areas, we see more searches on mobile devices than we see on desktop devices. So basically, destinations are rather new experience that we rolled out. We rolled out first on mobile, right? So there was no destination on desktop. So if you look up for a Lucerne trip on a notebook computer, there was still the old experience. If you looked it up on a mobile device, it looked then basically like this. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we also launched it on desktop, but this should just be an inspiration for you. I think whenever I would do it, and I would look at the digital experience, I would always look on mobile first right now, because basically in every area you have more people looking and getting on websites, getting on information on smartphones than you have on notebooks. But basically just one thing, so one destination, because I only have 50 minutes and want to be brief. If you have questions, I'm here also for lunch. Please come, because it should be really interactive. We are a small group, this makes it possible. So you can go on the destination, you can also, we have a little tool there where you can plan basically your trip. You can have already, a discussion basis with your friends, with your wife, with your family, to see in which destination you want to go. If you go then further, you go on Google Flights. I think many of you know that product. So if you look for a flight Zurich to Vienna, then you get into this flight experience. We also do like the rollouts on many of the new features first on mobile, because we see more people getting on Google Flights and mobile than on desktop. But basically, you can look which is the best flight for you, which is suitable, and then you can also book it. And I get a lot of questions in that area. So when will I be able to book my trip with Google? And I can say you right now, I don't see that happen at all, because we simply don't have capabilities to do that. But what is happening right now, what do you see? You made up your mind, you know exactly which flight you want to book, and right now you can book it on Google, but with a partner. This experience is called Book on Google, right? So basically you see here, Lufthansa was the first partner that we integrated, and I see this happening on more and more products, not only with Google. I see that you make all the choices, and then we used to link out to the partner's website, and you finish your booking there. And this is not necessary anymore. You can book everything on Google, and you don't have to click out anymore. And the partner gets his information. Obviously, you have the legal contract is with Lufthansa or with Virgin or with whatever, not with Google. And maybe just one thing to this, yeah. So I have the belief that pretty soon, right now, you see on many occasions that the conversion rate, so basically the rate for people who get on the website and who book, this conversion rate is a lot higher on desktop than on mobile. It's a problem for many websites. But I have the strong belief that this will change pretty soon, because what you see more and more is if you have an experience like that, and if you have basically one click to make the booking and all your credit card, which is from whatever system, from PayPal or whatever is already stored, you can just say, all right, take this credit card on my smartphone, and you have basically a one-book experience. The booking experience can be even better on a smartphone than it is on the desktop. All right, quickly on Google Hotels and on our hotel experience. Basically, I also focus here. You have a lot of the whole ecosystem is you have desktop. You can look for hotels. You can go down the funnel, and now also you can really book again on Google on a mobile experience in the UK and in the US. So basically what we do right now, instead of clicking out here, and then you still lose a lot of conversions or a lot of users on the way to your booking, we make it possible for our partners to integrate in such a way that you make the booking on Google with Booking.com, with Expedia, with the hotel, with whoever. This experience is live in the UK and the US right now. Exactly here, also like one very important part, all the experience that you see are only possible because we have strong partnerships with a lot of other companies, right? We could not deliver this experience if we don't have partnerships with the air carriers, with the hotels, with the OTAs, etc. And also here you see on the review side, we have partnerships. We have reviews from several sources. All right, so the newest experience, the Google Trips app, I think maybe many of you did not experience it yet. That's why I brought the little video with us, and maybe you can roll it quickly. Basically, the Google Trip apps is meant for in-destination experience, which you will see. So after you made all your booking, you have then the information there, and you can have a richer experience. Hopefully.
This is Ashley. She's going on a trip she started planning a while back, but right now feels kind of rushed. 11 hours later, this isn't her hotel, and with no Wi-Fi and no data, she's okay, because Ashley already downloaded Google Trips. So no Wi-Fi? No problem. She has everything she needs to know about her vacation right here on her phone, including how to find her hotel. That's more like it. And now that she's here, working out what to do doesn't need to be quite so overwhelming. Because with Google Trips, Ashley can make her own personalized itinerary for each day, with all her must-see spots laid out on a map to help get her there. And now that she can plan in advance the travel time to each location, she doesn't need to let any opportunity pass her by. All that sightseeing is hungry work. Hang on a second. Ashley, remember that place you saved that your friend Jane recommended? Yep, this one. Right around the corner. Known for being Picasso's old stomping ground. So wherever Ashley goes on vacation, Google Trips will always give her everything she needs, right at her fingertips. Nice work, Ashley.
Great, so basically this is the in-destination experience and the last part that we deliver with the Google Trips app. Try to download it. It automatically adds the initiaries that you already have and booked. If you have a Gmail account and you have the confirmation coming into your Gmail account, your hotel or travel, the air fare confirmation, then it goes directly in here and try it out. Okay, so the last thing, just because we announced it last week, I quickly want to touch base on it. So it's our assistant. So basically what you see that we already a couple of years ago we came from answers to assistant. I don't know, who of you knows Google Now? Not many, all right. All right, another question, who has an Android phone? All right, maybe 20%. So on the Android phone, you have the Google Now experience. Is basically when you are basically here, for example, in Lucerne, it would show you information which is relevant for you being here. This is the assistant from Google Now. And this is now integrated with our new hardware, but it's also a standalone app. It's called Google Hello, and it's basically a communication app and an assistant app. So you can have questions, for example here in this example, it's what are the Italian restaurants around me, and then the app gives you basically information which is valuable to you right now. Okay, good. Talked enough about Google. I want to quickly touch where do I see Philip Rees. So this is not a Google. Peter said we are really informal here, and I want to be informal. So this is my view. This is not Google view. I just want to make that sure that before I go on that topic. So if I talk with my partners and also if I talk with friends, I always say when I learn something from Google, it's definitely that we are really focused on the user. And I think this is exactly what it should be as well. And you should look at this travel circle and say, where is my added value? And the added value is not digital, it's not online, offline, it's not smartphone, desktop. I really think it's the user experience. So if you follow a user in whatever area you are, and you see what hurdles he has, and you try to solve that. And my personal opinion is that in the experiencing phase, there is a lot of stuff still broken. Let me give 3 examples. I'm sure you are the experts and you know a lot more. Let me give 3 examples. First, hotel check-in, check-out. For me, a really easy problem to solve. This is broken, right? Still, on the weekend, we visited a friend of mine from Sydney. He was in Wolfsburg, so we went to Wolfsburg. I had to for the checkout, I had to stay about 10 minutes in line. I was very relaxed. I was not in a hurry, but it's just not a good experience. Also, when we come, we made the booking over a big OTA. I had to give the credit card again. It's just not right. It just feels like I give the information 2 or 3 times. That's number 1. Number 2, we have a little apartment in the Alps, in Lenzerheide. And when we go up there, we go quite often to ski, because it's really nice to ski up there. So if I want to know about in-destination information, right? So when is there maybe a local concert, when there is something going on for kids. My little one is 7.5 years. You know how I retrieve that information? I retrieve it in the newspaper, in the local newspaper. This is how I retrieve it. So I have to get this newspaper. It's very, it's very charming, and it could be, if you really want that experience, that's okay. But I still think a lot of destinations don't think about the user good enough. Maybe they don't give options, or maybe they don't ask them, is that the experience you want? Is it? Yes, then you stay like that. Is it not? Then we should maybe change it. So information, and there's a lot going on which I have no clue about because I don't have the local newspaper. That's number 2. Number 3, where I see a lot of potential to make a better experience is on the skiing slopes. So right now, and this could be, you could adopt it into a city or whatever, right? Just give you that example. Right now, we always went into the Alps over Christmas and New Year, right? Right now, we don't do that anymore. Why we don't do it anymore? Because the slopes are totally crowded. My 7.5-year-old is a good skier, but it's crazy dangerous. There are no slopes, for example, for people who go a little slower. There are a lot of people who think they can ski fast. They shouldn't ski fast. The technology just is getting better and better, but they are not getting better. And there is no one looking at that. And I'm sure I hear from a lot of people as well, this is a problem. I don't see any solution. Do I think you have to solve it with technology? No. You could do it either way, but you could, for example, give a special low price. If we go from 8 to 10 to ski, you could give the opportunity to do that. I only have the opportunity to take a day ticket, which is very expensive in Switzerland. So you don't do anything to manage that. You could manage it with having a really high price from 10 to 2. You could do so much, and there is nothing wrong, right? And again, this is important. Then I get to the end. I'm not talking about that everything and every user experience should be digitalized. Not at all, right? I think at the end, it's still me who skis, who eats. So this is very analog, and this is great. This is how it should be. But technology just enables you to get a richer and better experience. And I think this is where I see that you, as leaders in this industry, can help to make it better. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Philip. I promised Dominique out here that I would keep the microphone a little closer to my mouth, so I'm doing that. If it's too loud, let me know. And now I also know how Swiss people look at me as a Danish person when I ski. It's terrible. That's why we're putting in a ski hill in the middle of Copenhagen. So that's something for you to put Google trips now. It is open all year, and I don't think it'll be very crowded. It's a night on top of our new garbage incinerator that we have. So. But I think your presentation was fascinating, Philip, and especially the piece of information where you tell us that you do mobile first. How many of your businesses in here are mobile first in the digital strategies? Raise your hand. What, 5%? Maybe? Is that a challenge for you, working with your partners, that the industry is not really thinking like you are, they're not mobile first? So the user experience that you get from the industry partners might be what you want it to be at Google?
Yes, it's a challenge because right now, if you look at it, basically still most of the partners, they get traffic from us, relevant traffic for their industry, right? And it's exactly what I said. This traffic, this mobile traffic, does not convert. So basically, the traffic that you buy from us does not do what you want. It does not do as good as desktop traffic. And basically, then first, what we heard 2-3 years ago was mobile does not work. We see that some parts who focus on that, it's not true, right? And with all the progress that we see, it's going to get better and better. But obviously, it's a problem for us, but basically it's a problem for you. Because the people, they are on their devices, if you want it or not, and they want the information. Whoever gives the best user experience on those devices will get the traffic, and will get the user, and will get the satisfied user.
Okay, I want you to raise your hand again. I would like to see how many of you feel a little dared by what you've just heard, that this is really a challenge more than perhaps an opportunity. For my company, raise your hand. You're all confident and ready to go for this new future. That's the spirit. Oh, we have one. Okay. David, how about you? Because you are our next speaker, and you told me last night when we were talking about this, you said, you know, Peter, it's really about the human experience. So Google can personalize as much as they want. They can have their Google Hello and you can talk to your phone, but by the end of the day, you want a real person. You want to go local. And I think now's the time for you to lift that argument with us.
Yeah, thank you. I should answer the question or come down?
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we had a fascinating discussion yesterday, and I think that fantastic piece of marketing and advertising from Google there with the traveller. I think she was called Ashley Phillip, who's kind of travelling around. And I was talking to Peter last night, and I said I firmly believe, I will bleed before I don't believe that Ashley wants to look up from her phone and have some human contact and social interaction, and meet some other people and actually chat to the chap at the reception desk rather than uniquely relying on reviews. But I think that Philip summed it up absolutely perfectly towards the end when he said that it's really about incorporating the digital experience into the analog, into the offline, and the human experience as well. So it's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you to ETOA for the invite. My name's Dave O'Kelly. I'm the Managing Director of Sandeman's New Europe Tours. I remember when I got the phone call from Nick Greenfield, who sat at the back, and perhaps the only person in the room who knows everyone and everybody knows as well. Am I getting some feedback, by the way, from the speakers? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Directly from the speakers is bad. Okay, yeah, that's bad. All right. When Nick called me, he said something which really did resonate with me, and he said that, look, we're holding a session on shaking up the marketplace, and particularly in 2016, when you mentioned things like shaking up marketplaces and creative disruption of marketplaces, it's unavoidable not to think of the sort of digital giants such as Google and TripAdvisor and Airbnb and Uber and all those kind of things. And I think what we offer is perhaps an example which is a bit closer to home, an example of a market disruptor in an offline environment as well. So hopefully there'll be some interesting ideas of shaking up the marketplace and driving a paradigm shift in tourism. So just very briefly to
shaking up the presentation.
Okay, the clicker's not working, unfortunately. It was earlier. Oh, did I do that or did you do that? I did that. Okay, perfect. So that's not me, unfortunately. That's I wish. But just to give a very brief sort of introduction to Sandeman's New Europe. So we were founded in 2003 by our still single owner and founder, Chris Sandeman. Chris was working with, I suppose now you would call one of our sort of current competitors in Berlin, giving tours, walking tours of Berlin. And what he found was it was a sort of traditional model, a paid tour, paid walking tour, pay in advance up front, receive a walking tour service. And what he found was that very quickly the style of the tour that he was giving, very engaging and theatrical in style, coupled with a very sort of American, US sort of led, real keen eye on customer care and audience involvement and customer service as well. He found that the fees that he was being paid from the walking tour provider in Berlin were being dwarfed by the gratuities, the sum of the individual tips, voluntary tips, given to him by travellers at the end of tours. So very quickly, sort of, I suppose, came to the realisation that a free walking tour based exclusively on tips would not only be able to finance itself and be monetarily relevant, but would also provide, of course, a real sort of competitive disruptor, a real competitive advantage into the market. You fast forward 13 years and we do across 18 business units, principally in Europe, but also in Israel and the United States as well. We do just over 1.5 million visits per year at the moment. And we call ourselves, I believe justifiably, pioneers of a free tour model. free tours based on tips, large amounts of people, breaking down barriers for customers, opening up new markets of travellers, and then our core competency in how we make money as an organisation is converting 45% of those free tour customers onto ideally our own paid walking tours and paid services later that day or the next day, or to sell on to other experiences from third parties which are not competitive with our own walking tours, so be they museums or boat tours or bus tours or whatever it might be. I say now worldwide, it's a model which has been exported, sometimes by us, sometimes by people who visited us on our tours and taken their own model back to Vancouver or Rio or Mexico or Australasia or to Tokyo or wherever it might be. And I think last time we checked, there was 250 to 300 free walking tour companies out there, ranging from the sort of bigger operations like us, I suppose, to the sort of 1 or 2 person shops giving out, doing their thing, and for the love of the city, showing people their homes. So just to kind of delve a little bit deeper into this free tour concept and to kind of explore principally what it's about, I mentioned already that it's a tips-based model. That's how the guides earn gratuities and sort of that's how the free tour finances itself for them. I say here that it's a self-regulating model. What I mean by that is, despite many sort of accusations laid at our doors from licensed guides and other competitors in the market, we do very strict and very tough quality control tests and exams at the start of a working cooperation with a guide. But after that, it does self-regulate. Naturally, there is that incentive in there. The guides see a direct connection between what they put into the tour in terms of energy and effort and revision and sweat and blood and tears and everything that goes into it. They see a direct connection between that and what they receive out of it monetarily. I've been with the company for 10 years now, almost since the inception, and I can remember no more than a dozen occasions where we've had to stop working with one of our freelance guides for quality issues. From a customer perspective, of course, free is a very powerful word. We found that, and I think it's absolutely still the case, that it's not specifically that the tour is monetarily free, it's that it's risk-free. And words like risk, words like trust, words like empowerment have become really core and central to our business concept. The risk-free element opens up a new market of travellers, people who had no intention of doing a walking tour before arrival in the city. They come with that, might as well check it out. If it's shit, and leave after 5 minutes, there's no harm done, nothing lost. Open up a new market of travellers, and who really sort of enjoyed the reversal of that dynamic. It's not a money back if you're not satisfied guarantee. It's not a, as is traditional in the service industry, pay us up front and trust us, you'll love this. It's allow us to trust you. We know that we're good enough. We'll let you decide at the end of the service what the tour was worth to you. And again, that sort of aspect of trust kind of and that desire for reciprocity in the customers, I think, was very powerful. Of course, there's then a positive gap. The way to really sort of create delight in customers and certainly brand loyalty in customers is to beat expectations. And I think that, sort of a relatively low bar for new customers anyway, of a free service, don't quite know what they're expecting, perhaps aren't expecting that much. In addition to the guides being, in my opinion, sort of superior, really does create that sort of delight and fantastic experience and brand loyalty amongst the customer base. So, infotainment is a term that was coined, and I sort of referred to it briefly in the opening slide, talking about Chris Sanderman giving tours of not necessarily a different nature, and certainly not a unique nature. It's certainly not to say that we created and founded the concept of not just informing people, but entertaining them at the same time. It's not to say that there aren't still, and weren't before our inception, thousands of fantastic tour guides out there who did have this and who did sort of pay tribute to this concept of infotainment. But I do think that the style of guiding this type of style of guiding really is synonymous with the free tour. It's very difficult to be a free tour guide and not lay as much stress on the presentation of information as well as the content and the accuracy of the historical nature of the information itself. Partly because, of course, for a free tour you're dealing with such a wide spectrum. You have sort of the history professor who wants the kind of in-depth analysis on the origins of the French Revolution, and then you have the kind of, Australian, it doesn't have to be Australian I suppose, but the kind of, they usually are I guess, but the sort of backpacker, his flip-flops, drinking a beer at 11 AM, sort of just wanting to see the sights and meet some people and be told some jokes and innuendo and things like that. And it's very challenging to be able to cater to that sort of wide spectrum of audience, I suppose. And it's about this mix of history and charismatic storytelling. And there are a few bullet points there on the slide of what a typical makeup of one of our guides would be. So clearly very personable, engaging, extroverted, enthusiastic. We made a quick video. This is actually just kind of really fresh off the press. Not that I left it last minute or anything, but it's we made a quick video of tours that took place in Barcelona, one of our markets, and I think that sort of much more better kind of explain this idea of infotainment, audience participation, and things like that better than I can put into words, and hopefully it works.
We started back before all written history began, in an age of monsters, myths, and gods who were at odds with mortal man. Then to the Iberians and Britain history, when Hannibal attacked them all in 200 BC. From elephants to Carthage to ancient Roman rule, and then barbaric Gothic clans, you must admit, that bit was cool. And then Islam took on Charlemagne, but Charlemagne was best, and the king appointed Wilfrid with the very hairy chest. And it sounds a good quote. So then the glory days of Aragon and a string of mini wars. They built an empire while Castile were fighting off the Moors, but their luck was not to last. The bloodline died shortly after, along with poor King Martin. That's the guy who died from love.
So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea and puts into sort of imagery and words about what I'm talking about. So that was, the voiceover was from Leon, one of our superstar, who's actually just written a West End show, and one of our superstar guides in Barcelona, who sort of wrote his own poem. And again, it's very received with the guides and how they act that kind of weird gesticulation and treating it really as sort of a performance, a sort of theatrical presentation. So moving on now to how we market, I've split this part into three sort of very loosely chronologically defined periods. Absolutely grew up in 2003 and established as an offline marketing company. 2003 for sure, after the advent of the internet, no doubt about it, but it would be absolutely our wish, and Philip's organisation is perhaps helping with that, and he's mentioned it in his previous presentation. It would be fantastic if people made sure that they booked their walking tour before booking their flight and their hotel, but it's just not the reality, unfortunately, just yet. Certainly wasn't in 2003. Our sort of key sources were hotels, hostels, tourism organisations, and word of mouth, and the most important one on that list was the hotels, or really the hostels. Hostels, sort of at that time, were coming to terms kind of very quickly with the realization that as a hostel service provider, gone are the days where you sell beds, you sell experiences. You don't sell rooms, you sell destinations. And that the better you can make the holistic experience of your guest, the better that will be reflected in their ratings on TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Hostelworld, whatever it might be. So the hostels were very keen to sort of support this kind of free tour and giving a great introduction to the city as well. And that was our key focus, really. We wanted to be the answer to that question that receptionists get asked thousands of times a week what should we do today? The decision was made at the reception desk, certainly in 2003. Too late, we shifted our focus and kind of became too glaringly obvious that digitalization of our customer base and a strong online presence really did graduate from, you know, a want and a nice to have to a need. It was when we started taking bookings for tours online, and any tour operators who don't do that, I can absolutely recommend our partner Trexoft, who are in the room as well. Really helped kind of develop and take us out of that sort of offline focus. We also started working with, concentrating on reviews and working with online travel agencies focused in tourism as well, Viator, Expedia, Get Your Guide as well. And I suppose the current period is that continual absolute necessity, that refining of the online presence. And we've just had a quite disruptive but an interesting sort of launch of a new website, fully mobile compatible, as obviously is the sort of basic requirement at the moment. A website geared towards customer engagement and booking as well. And the main thing that actually pushed us into doing that website development sooner than we perhaps would have normally liked was, I don't know if it was a press release or something that was that just kind of came out from Google, which was, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, if you'd be able to correct me, when Google said that it's not only sort of mobile, unfriendly websites that will be punished in rankings on desktops, on mobile searches, which kind of makes sense, but will also be punished on desktop searches as well. It really kind of made it an absolute minimal requirement that, you know, Google seeing your website as mobile friendly is an absolute must. And actually, this is just to show kind of how pronounced that is. Now, remember that the free tour is we very seldom fill up. Of course, there's no monetary commitment, it's just a psychological commitment which is made when booking a free tour. But just over the summer in one of our markets, again, Barcelona, 65% of our customers have pre-booked their free tour ahead of time, which of course presents a significant amount of opportunity for us to compete, not just locally, but to compete when they're planning their trip in advance as well. So shaking up the marketplace, of course, we were welcomed with open arms universally, very smooth rides and everything like that, and not at all, unfortunately. We were welcomed with open arms by the customers and the partners and the hostels and the tourism organisations, which is sort of the main thing. But there were many people who challenged the free tour concept, licensed guides, existing more traditional walking tour operators, saw the free tour as unfair competition. None of those challenges kind of graduated any further than a kind of complaint, but it was nonetheless kind of things that we had to deal with. And the main sort of thing that can be thrown at the free tour, particularly from licensed guides who do sort of multi-year long sort of degree level qualifications, was this aspect of quality. I'll never forget Friday evening, I think it was must have been 2010, 2011, a call from a journalist from Le Parisien, the local paper in Paris, sort of asking me, giving me 10 minutes to decide if I'd like to comment on an article that was to be posted the next day about the sort of licensed guides and what their comments to our free tour model were. I said, well, I don't know, I mean, no, I guess, you know, you can put that you asked us and no comment, that's the goal here, you know, quite clearly. And I woke up the next morning kind of consistently refreshing the page and eventually discovered that apparently la guerre des guides est déclarée, so let battle commence amongst the tour guides in Paris. And I suppose one of my favourite sort of quotes out there, it's a little bit small, is on ne veut pas être assimilé à des clowns. So we don't want to be associated with the type of guys who I've just shown you in the video. That's not us. They don't know what they're talking about. You know, attacking the kind of quality, the free tour aspect on, you know, in terms of quality. Wasn't limited to France. I studied French, but have no kind of excuse in poor Spanish pronunciation. Falsos cicerones reinventan la historia. So again, this aspect of quality, you know, yeah, the attacks there from various sectors there. Nevertheless, we're very proud and incredibly humbled, genuinely, to be #1 on TripAdvisor in 14 of our 18 markets. One of the ones that we're not is New York, where we've climbed from 65th to 7th in the space of a year. And again, humbled is the only word. That this month, unless something kind of tragic and weird happens, but this month, we will sort of celebrate our 100,000th five-star TripAdvisor review. So the customers are happy. The sort of principal stakeholder. Here are some of them as well. You know, I like to read the five-star TripAdvisor reviews sometime. You guys, particularly the tour operator, you all work in the travel industry, there's nothing better. You're in for the best free tour of your life, you know, best of the best, my personal favourite. That guy Dave was amazeballs. Yeah. So, now then, final slide, threats and opportunities. We all deal with this kind of new concept of the modern millennial traveller. I discovered only quite recently that a millennial apparently, various definitions, but a millennial is someone who was born after 1982, so I think there are more millennials in this room. It's not just Generation Z, it's Generation Y as well. What does she have? In my opinion, she has an increasing aversion to the big and the corporate. He has a thirst and a love for all things local. One of the most genius things I think that Airbnb did was their campaign quite recently. Airbnb, you know, big $1 billion, you know, international corporation. But what they did was they managed to kind of step away from that and make their marketing about connecting travellers, guests with hosts, and make the hosts front and centre as the representatives of their brand. You may remember that don't just go to Paris, don't just visit Paris, you know, live in Paris. And I think that, you know, the modern millennial does have a desire for that connectivity to the local market and local sort of traditions. Has a desire for authenticity as well, whatever that may be. Sort of don't want the beaten path, don't want the mainstream. You know, don't want what tourists do. You know, that kind of thirst for local and some sort of authenticity. Of course, as Philip was mentioned, you know, digital has to be part of the experience, has to be digitally compatible, and it has to be shareable as well. You know, heaven forbid you might meet a celebrity and not selfie it, because it didn't happen if you didn't do that, right? So, it has to be digital, has to be shareable. There's also a new kind of desire for unique and, I mean, out there, she'll sound in touch, I am with the modern millennial travel, but out there sort of experiences. Things that we would never and could never do because of our sort of size and reputation. Tours to cocaine factories and, you know, in South America. Tours to, you know, experiences to try and cross the Mexican-US border. You know, they may have a limited lifespan if things don't go well in early next month. You know, tours, illegal tours as well, which go far too close for comfort to the reactor in Chernobyl. Tours that break into abandoned buildings in sort of more alternative markets in Eastern Europe and also in Berlin as well. And I think that's very popular, you know, the sort of the kind of, like I say, the thirst for the unique and the interesting. So what are our goals and how do we sort of respond to that? The last two, you know, I think that was just because it had a bit of space on the slide to state the blindingly obvious. You know, be ready to adapt, be ready to diversify, be open-minded, of course, something that we really keep, you know, sort of close to our hearts. But I think what we can do, sort of more specifically, is look closer. And it's perfect because it really, I'm so happy for the, where you finished off, is that incorporation, that further integration of the digital into the offline experience. Of course, there's always been a desire to engage with customers pre-trip. That's why you get bookings and make them to make ideally a monetary, or in our case, a psychological commitment. There's always been a desire to engage with customers and stay relevant post-trip as well. That's how you get TripAdvisor reviews. The positive ones, you know, the negative ones you want to keep private and fix kind of internally. But I think also there's a lot to be done for, particularly as tour operators and tour providers and tour marketers, for the further incorporation of the digital into the experience itself, so during rather than pre or post trip as well. We've had a few offers to sort of turn our tour guides into Wi-Fi hotspots, so people can be kind of commenting and Instagramming and sharing as they as they go. Tom and I were talking about advances in technology now of how audio tours could be not only access to restricted markets for us, but also could help remove that one remaining barrier to entry for customers, which we do have, which is language. So kind of incorporating that perhaps into our tours and services as well. And again, sort of similar to Airbnb, stress the social. Our tagline, if you like, is connecting great guides with smart travelers. That's what we do. We're a marketing company, and we put those two together to say, yes, we may be big, we may be international, we may be always looking to expand and grow and innovate, but your experience is with this local, or expat person who is your like-minded tour guide. And stressing the social as well. That was the kind of question, Peter, that sort of led into this, which is that I don't think that people want to travel as Ashley did, only as Ashley did on that video. I think there is a desire, and will remain a desire, for people to come together and to allow travel to continue to be the sort of panacea in many ways of many of the world's problems and issues, by meeting people from different cultures, expanding horizons, and sharing experiences. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, David. Do we have time for 1 or 2 questions? Any of you have that? Please tell us your name.
Yes, my name is Sasha. I'm from Happy Tours. We are a more traditional wholesaler. And I have a question. I love Sandevan's idea, and I would love to be transcended to other branches. For instance, just imagine a hotel room which you would pay in the morning, depending on how you like it, coach, and so on. So it's fascinating, and I congratulate you for that. I would just like to ask, how are you coping with taxes in this sense? Because if the trip is not free, there's no fee. I suppose you have some recommendation. What is the tips if you are satisfied and so on? Because I think people come from different cultures and are often asking how we should reward this appropriately. But the question of the tax is still up top of my mind. And then for another one, it's about demographics. I think this is millennia, and it's limited to English at the moment, as I understood correctly. And the tours are walking tours.
The tours are walking tours, and we do tours in English, Spanish, and German. Yeah. I think just to sort of deal with that as you deal with the order of that good question. I think that you're absolutely right in that was. So what was the first thing you said before you asked the question about the tax? I'm sorry, it's gone out.
Basically that I adore the idea that it makes actually the ultimate goal.
I remember that. You said that it would be great to kind of expand this model into hotels. Sorry, thank you for reminding me. And I think that there is a very clear difference. It's a double-edged sword for us, which is that there are very few barriers to entry for what we do. Provided that it's an open market and that guides can guide, freely without licensing. There are very few barriers to entry. What do you need to be a free tour guide? You need a T-shirt and a loud voice and a dream, and that's it really. And the market will decide whether you're good enough to survive. In other types of models, boat tours, bus tours, hotels as well, they just come with a completely different array of fixed costs, right, which would make the whole model and the whole concept be a lot more risky. In terms of the taxation, the guides all operate as individual freelancers, and just as a set service fee that would be paid to them from a more traditional tour operator if you work with freelancers, their tips absolutely count as business income. They have normal expenses as well, their travel and their learning and their marketing fees to the organisation, but their income, just as tips, is declared as any normal freelancer, any taxi driver, any other tour guide who also receives tips on top would declare their income.
We have a question over here. Please tell us your name.
My name is Bryn Rees, I'm with CHR Travel. I also think the whole concept is fascinating. I hadn't heard of your company before. A couple of things I'm just interested in is, in terms of the quality control, the temptation must be for the guides to give a pitch on the tipping side of it. This is my only source of income, blah, blah, blah. You would have to guard against that. I mean, like street acts you see sometimes spend half their act saying this is all I get, sort of thing. And at the end, you're talking about the 45% conversion rate. Again, I would guess you need to guard against the real hard sell on the extras and so on, which is going to put people off.
Yeah.
How do you do that in terms of with the guides? Do you have strict guidelines and things?
Yeah. It's a really excellent question, and you're absolutely right. It is one of the things that the free tour sort of lays itself open to as a model. Very happily, the answer to both of those related questions is the same, which is, as a guide myself, and I'm sure there are other sort of tour guides in the room who would hopefully back this up, the hard sell just doesn't work.
Between where the digital marketplace meets Sandeman's New Tours as an example, and actually gives people that personal experience and really adds value in destinations. You know, nobody wants to go and just sit on a bench and not really get to interact with locals. I think, you know, there's a really valuable tool that's available where you can plan your trip effectively so that you don't miss out on the top attractions. But you want that credibility of, you know, having the security of booking something through a really reliable business tool, and something like TripAdvisor where you can say, well, you know, this tour or this provider has got 4 stars on TripAdvisor. I can read what people are saying about these guys. Was it amazeballs? Was the expression? So, you know, that's the type of tour guide I'm very likely to want to book with. Perhaps some of you less so. But I think that, you know, that puts my company in a really interesting position. I think why the tours and activities market is so interesting is because we're still at a very early stage of development, and I think, you know, there's many of you in this room that already operate within this business, and I think what's really exciting, Focusrite did a study a couple of years ago, and we estimated that the online penetration for online tours and activities for booking was only around 10%. Furthermore, they estimated that it was worth nearly $72 billion. So there's a huge opportunity, and I think that you can then sort of see why TripAdvisor took the decision to really enter this market in a big way, and while Google have absolutely started to follow that lead and get into the market as well. But it's got its challenges. It's a really fragmented market, and you know, you can see from the map there, the V's represent all of the countries that Viator and TripAdvisor is active in, and that's a really difficult market to interact with. You know, how would Sandeman's, for example, be able to market themselves effectively to a couple in Arkansas, as well as a family in Samoa, or you know, or Hong Kong, or the UK? You know, the possibilities are endless, and so TripAdvisor is a very good tool to be able to do that, and you can do that in a review-based model where the customer is actually going to get a very good idea of what they're buying beforehand, and you know, they automatically get that credibility. But it gives the opportunity for local tour operators that are providing local experiences to really propose their credibility to customers that otherwise they perhaps wouldn't have reached. And in terms of some of the challenges, you know, this is by far the biggest challenge that's just facing humans in general. You know, we're increasingly online. We're increasingly online with mobile devices. So in the 3 years, 2012 to 2015, we saw a doubling in the number of smartphones in the world. We saw over a doubling of tablets, and you know, the mobile travel booking specifically has raised exponentially. Now, that's not showing any sign of slowing down, and tours and activities is no different. I think that, you know, we are already seeing primarily tours and activities being booked in destination rather than online beforehand. I think that's a trend that's only going to continue, which provides its own challenges because the market is so fragmented. And just to highlight the point, so this is St. Peter's Basilica. So you can see the difference in 2005 versus 2013. So everyone in the world has a smartphone, and it's just like, and it's got nothing to do with a very popular boat. But this does give its own challenges. So if everyone is now on their mobile device rather than on a desktop, well, we can't market to them in the same way that we have done before. So what do we do? So we have to really think about what we show people and when we show it to them. So an example here is just an email experience, but it's really important to tailor your experience to how your consumer is expecting to find it. So if I'm on my mobile device and I'm perhaps already in London, I'm not then looking to see perhaps a Stonehenge tour leaving from Victoria at 8 o'clock in the morning when it's already midday. However, I might quite be interested in a guided tour of the British Museum, which is just round the corner from my hotel and leaving in half an hour. So we have to really think about how do we tailor these experiences and promote to people at the right time. And this is just an example of very simple that, well, we're going to target you before you arrive at a destination, and then once you're there, we're going to welcome you and say, well, look, while you're here, why don't you try and do this? And we have some numbers to back it up. Like, it's not just been a trend that's been ignored. Like, we're reacting to consumer behaviour, but the results are really, really exciting. So we're already seeing over 90% growth in our Viator mobile channels, which is fantastic over the course of the last year, and we're on track to exceed that as well. And the other thing that we're seeing is a dramatic shrinking in the hours in advance, so the days in advance someone actually makes a booking, which again, it's a really difficult and challenging thing for tour operators and for companies like mine to adapt to. And one of the ways that we've adapted to this is we've actually really focused on API connectivity with our top suppliers, and that's going to become increasingly important. This gives our customers then real-time availability and live availability, so that they can actually see what's available there and then through our partner's website. There's no good that you see on Viator or TripAdvisor a guided tour of the Eiffel Tower, and then all of a sudden you go to book it, and actually you get partway through the booking process and you have to wait for the supplier to then email you back to say that they haven't got it available. It's a terrible customer experience, and I think we're at the stage now where customers expect everything. The customer is king. They expect to be able to book in the manner that they want to book it, and it to happen seamlessly. And gone are the days that we can drive that. And we're actually seeing a big increase in ticket sales that's driven by API sales as well. So again, you can see that in the 24 hours prior to departure, the number of bookings actually quadrupled, which again is really, really exciting. And I think that kind of puts a revenue incentive to everyone in this room, that if you make those changes and react to what the customer is demanding, you'll be very, very successful. But it doesn't just go there. I think you have to really look at how you tailor the experience as well. So I think if we look at an example on the screen here, so you need to be able to provide customers with options as well. Not just well, this is the tool that we're offering. You need to be able to offer them real-time options for what's available there and then. I think that's where you're more than likely to drive bookings. I think what we've done quite well on TripAdvisor as well is really enhance those booking opportunities. So actually, when you're looking at the TripAdvisor app or the TripAdvisor site, you can really then see exactly what you want to experience. You can read about it, you can read the consumer reviews, and then you can choose the best available option for you and book it there and then. We don't want to be in a position where we're just advising someone what they can do and not be able to complete their experience and offer them a booking experience. In an ideal world, what we'd like to be able to do is just have them book there and then send their confirmation details through to someone like Dave and his team, and ensure that they've already got an excellent consumer experience planned in their chosen destination. But I think that one of the other things that's increasingly important is mobile, is how then you bring that booking experience together, how you display what people are seeing in destination and make it relevant to them. Do we necessarily want to see the same content in destination on a mobile device as we want to see prior to departure? I would argue not, and I think that we're in a unique position where we can now push message out to our customers and say, well, these are the top things to do. These are the way to book the direct tickets. If you book those direct tickets, they can go straight into your Apple Wallet or your Viator booking section, and you can then have the experience, and it will be a seamless experience. And I think that one of the biggest developments has been with some of our partner sites. That the first iteration of this was on TripAdvisor. A lot of people don't realise that initially TripAdvisor was a partner of ours, and the previous experience would be that you would go to TripAdvisor, check your availability, and then leave that environment, go to a Viator environment, and make a booking. Terrible experience, and not a mobile optimized experience. Philip will testify that is not a good experience that you want the customer to have. And so we invested in trying to make that experience more seamless on TripAdvisor as well, and allow them to book and complete their booking. So to this day, this is what the experience would now look like on a mobile device. You'd be able to see and search for things that are actually near where you are now in your destination, things that are available in destination. TripAdvisor will then serve you the things that are available based on in an order that's on the most best reviewed products that exist in your destination. And you'd then be able to check availability and book. And I think the thing that drives me nuts is that if we have products on there where we don't have live availability or we don't have API, imagine this as a customer. You are told by TripAdvisor what your best experience to do in the destination is. You pay on TripAdvisor app, you book it, you're ready to take your tour, you receive your confirmation, and it says with a little note at the bottom, please print out a copy of this confirmation and head back to your... so this is just a disastrous experience. You've got to try and find a printer. Often concierge are not exactly so open-minded about printing confirmations for online marketplaces such as ourselves, and I can understand that with good reason. So I think this whole API and mobile connectivity issue is so interlinked and so important that we really have to crack both of these to really be able to react to the market. And just to give you a snapshot of what this then looks like, we've tried to filter on TripAdvisor to make it very easy to find instantly bookable products that are available. So you can see a snapshot here for some things to do in Berlin in honor of my co-speaker. And we want to really emphasise the things that you can book there and then and be able to implement there and then. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg, I think. So we're very much at the beginning of the online travel the tours and activities market in online travel, and I think that what you'll start to see in the future is many other companies coming into this space, big travel names that will try and be making incremental money from tours and activities. And some of those partners are already partners of Viator, and we have over 50 airlines already, for example, that are already taking product feed from Viator and TripAdvisor to actually then sell on an affiliate model, and that's something that I'm sure will be expanding into the future as well. But that is a brief overview from me. I'm happy to take any questions, although please none about tax status.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrew. I think we should give it now it's your turn, because it's time for questions for the whole panel.
Hello, my name is Rolf Senstad. I come from Norway. I represent SimpleView here. And since I'm representing SimpleView, I work with DMOs and regional tourist boards regarding setting up mobile-friendly websites. But so I have a question for Philip regarding this, because as you mentioned, the Google offers so many good things now, and we appreciate that. But what I also see is that Google are sort of taking over some of the areas that the destination management officers want to have control over in the sense. For instance, if you type in what to do in Germany, what to do in Sweden, you get a Wikipedia up with the pictures coming from different sources. So that's fine. But since we are so internal here, I would like to ask, how can we partner better and be more possible to interact with what comes up in these search areas?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So, for example, on the Trips app, which is probably most going into the direction that you just mentioned, you're really in the early stage, but we will definitely partner with a lot of you. This has always been our way. Right now, what we see in the products where we are a little bit more progressed, so in flights and in hotels, many of our experiences are based on feeds that we get from our partners, right? So I think mentioned also specifically by you before, I think the data and the cleanness of data gets more and more important for you, that you can give this data to TripAdvisor, that you can give it to us, that you can give it to whoever, Booking.com, whoever you want to partner with. So I think it is important for you as a consultant in the destination area to consult that there is a data cleanness and that you have this data available and that you have the APIs available, that when we are ready that we can access it, and maybe TripAdvisor is already ready, that you can give this data there, because we have the same, the same intent as you. We want to have the right data and the best pictures for whatever is described, right? But we are specifically in what you mentioned, I think it's a little bit too early. But on flights and hotels, we're there, and also to give you another examples where it's going in that direction. If you have a business, you can manage this business on Google My Business. All the information, the opening hours, your phone number, your email address, your photos, your services, you can classify it. It's a free tool, and you can do it as of now. But specifically for destinations, we're not there yet. But it's definitely in our plans.
Yeah, I think it's just very important to maybe then, if I understand correct, to have contact with local Google department offices and maybe cooperate with them. If you're a DMO, a regional tourist office or a national tourist office, to see and plan for the future. So that means that you are open for that type of planning and that what you want to. So I'm glad to hear that.
We are always open, exactly. So for example, I can only talk about Switzerland. We are in very close cooperation with the Swiss Tourism Board, and also, like, for example, with Marcel, we have close collaboration. So we're always open to talk and to take your ideas. Obviously, we are a global platform, and it's hard to talk with each destination. But with some of you of the bigger players, we definitely talk with them. We have to find solutions which are suitable for all of us.
Okay, questions from Panda?
Is there not a certain irony, going back to Dave's point about people wanting a different, unique, whatever experience, and the whole thing coming through to huge corporate behemoths represented by the two of you sitting on the stage? Are people really going to see that as the unique out of it? I mean, as soon as they sort of see you, is that not, I know the connectivity and the sharing thing, but in terms of getting out of the ordinary, if it's being packaged by the likes of Google, TripAdvisor, is that not slightly anathema to where Dave started his career? Just an idea.
So I think, to the point that I was trying to make earlier on, TripAdvisor as a business, and Viator before that, has very much been about enabling business like Sandeman's to reach a global audience. And I mentioned before, it's very, very difficult to target that couple in Arkansas with a tour and have that instant credibility to be able to get them to trust your brand and want to take a city tour for your one holiday a year. So TripAdvisor as an open marketplace is then the enabler for that. We've never my knowledge, have no ambitions to become one. So it is just very much becoming that facilitation, and actually Dave and I have known each other a little while, and we work with Sandeman's very closely to promote their tours, and we're very happy they're number one on a lot of our search rankings, but we have no issues promoting them as the provider of the tours that people would experience.
John Vaughn from Trexsoft. Just to kind of steer the discussion back to Rolf and your comment about DMOs, we've been focusing a lot on DMOs recently, and more of a comment than a question to keep this conversation going is it Google's or Viator's responsibility to take up contact and push the DMOs, or is it the DMO's responsibility more to modernize themselves and take action and make use of the tools? If the DMO is being outranked by Wikipedia on a hotel bed search, they probably need to revert back to their own internal marketing department and look at what they're doing. And from our experience, is your own Fjord Norway being one very forward-thinking, active, modern DMO, but not all DMOs are as agile or as adoptive of new technologies as others.
So your message is that it's about pushing the content. That's what it's
Hi, thank you very much. My name is David Arthur. I'm with EF Tours, and I have a question to all three of you. Do you have any examples of successful or maybe unsuccessful partnerships with group travel providers?
Yes. It's I will sort of talk sort of with names or pronouns and absolute specifics, but the answer is absolutely yes. And it was it's a problem with expectations a lot of times, and I can recall because we also do evening tours. Our core demographic in the early days, because we were marketed ourselves so successfully with the hostels, was that sort of 18 to 25-year-old. And it meant that sort of beer tour, evening experiences, pub crawls became a big part of what we did. And we had to stop working with and stop providing for stag and hen parties at one particular point, organised by one particular sort of provider actually in the UK, for just quite imaginable sort of despicable behaviour issues and expectations of those guys on the tour as well. We've had some other sort of problems with the usual kind of demand and capacity mismatches as well, which can often come from group providers. But we're principally an FIT, so an independent travel organisation, but do private tours for groups and schools and universities as well.
Historical palaces. We work with TripAdvisor, Viator, and both Sandeman's. And certainly within the online environment of selling tickets to the attractions, it's become an issue in terms of the amount of consideration you put on the back-end development with suppliers and protecting against fraud. Can you confirm what level of investment you put into that side, and ensuring that the relationship with suppliers is maintained to ensure that we get paid?
Just for me.
Okay.
So, well, I'd like to think we'd pay you. In terms of the actual monetary investment we put in there, it's not something that I either know or if I did would be able to disclose here. But certainly, it is a huge focus for our team to try and we've developed an anti-fraud prevention team, a fraud prevention team over the last year to try and monitor that. Unfortunately, that is the times that we live in. It is gradually growing, and it's a huge problem for us. I think the best way that we've found to get around it thus far is with some sort of API connectivity to have the ability to then deactivate a barcode that has been provided to a provider. And I think that's probably the easiest way for an attraction to be able to deal with this as well, because simply if an operator comes to your gate, their barcode doesn't work, your instruction will then be, well, you need to call the person that you booked with. Now, if they call us, we will have a record that this is a fraudulent transaction, so the likelihood is that they won't. I guess in the past, when the industry was much smaller, it was a lot easier and actually within a lot of companies' terms and conditions to ask for identification and that the name of the reservation would match that was on the ticket. Obviously, a discrepancy would have then surely showed that up. But I think it's very quickly evolving, and there's very little that you can do to prevent it. You just have to react as best you can. Absolutely. No, it's a massive problem. I think there's other things that you can do. I think we spend a lot of time analysing the behaviour of fraudulent tickets as well, and when they're booked in relation to travel date, because if this is genuine fraud, then the likelihood is that they need time to then be able to resell this voucher as well. So you can by restricting the days in advance that you allow someone to book, but then that needs to be weighed up against the impact that you have on business overall. Because if I just said to you that within 3 days our bookings are going up by 90%, so it has to be a bit of an evolving strategy, I guess, and to that point, it makes it even more important that any operator like mine has very close relationships with their top suppliers, because otherwise it's just unmanageable.
Hi, Rob from the AC Group. It's a question for David, actually. It's 2 questions. Firstly, what insurance cover are there for anybody that's visiting on a tour and taking the walking tour? We're currently being asked for increasing levels of proof of insurance by travel companies. And secondly, what's the average tip value given to a tour guide?
In terms of insurance, of course, the sort of local regulation differs from country to country and market to market. We as an organisation, Sandeman's, of course, have limited liability insurance across the board, which already sort of exceeds the sort of minimal legal requirement. And although it's the guide's responsibility to look after their own insurance as individual operators and freelancers in their own right, the vast majority of them do. It makes absolute sense for them to have their own individual limited liability insurance at least. There's also some of our sort of corporate insurances which actually, as an umbrella, cover the freelancers as well. It doesn't apply to every market though. I think that's actually one of the great things that sort of ETOA and Expedia do, sort of in difference to some of the other, let's say, newer tourism OTAs, is ask for, in many cases, sort of proof of that sort of not only legal registration of business, but also legal, up-to-date sort of insurance policies as well. I think it's a very sort of sensible policy. The second point of what the average tip is, unfortunately, it's not to sort of chicken out of it. It massively varies from market to market, season to season, and happily from guide to guide, because we want that sort of meritocratic approach of better guides do better in a free tour model. Poor guides don't survive. I would say if it was really pushed for sort of an average across I'm really shooting from the hip, but I would say €6 to €8 per person, and it being your typical sort of bell curve, a few people giving 0 change, 1, €2, vast majority 6 to 8, and then the odd sort of 10, 20, 50 if you get lucky.
Hi, it's Nick Greenfield here from ETOA, but for many years I worked for a company called NETC, an educational company, and I was a tour guide. In fact, I'm still known to do the odd bit of tour guiding. And somewhere I loved, and I'm not just saying it for being here, was Lucerne
we did one in Lucerne, we'd have the whole day, we do a walking tour, it's more relaxed. We actually used Lucerne to explain how Switzerland works. So we would have the students stop outside various monuments and they would use the city of Lucerne to explain this interesting and fascinating country that is Switzerland. Now, if I wanted to do the same thing in somewhere like, I don't know, Siena in Tuscany, where I studied, where I was trying to encourage people to go and study, I ran the risk of the police coming up and finding me, or even worse has happened. And this is something that ETOA has worked very hard on for many years, which is that we believe that it's better not to regulate something like guiding when it's unnecessarily needed. You can still have amazing local guides, and you can also have other models. So David and either the other two panelists, would you expand on that a little bit? And also, like, do you do tours, for example, in Italy at the moment? And in both the other cases, are there countries where you feel they really make the most of what you offer online? And are there examples, particularly in Europe, as we're all here today as people that sell Europe around the world, where you think the countries could do a lot better? Obviously, if it's Lucerne, don't mention it, because we're in Lucerne and they're fantastic. But anywhere else, possibly, you could mention. I'd be very interested. But first, starting with your guiding experiences in Italy, I'd be very interested to hear.
Yeah. Well, Italy and Austria and Greece, I think Italy in particular are the sort of biggest gap in our network of cities. We don't have anything there, we don't run operations there, we don't do tours there. And it's probably the most popular complaint / question that we get anecdotally from the 3,500 people we do a day, and the rest of the network is that, why are you guys not in Italy? We were looking for you guys in Italy. Or even worse, we did your tour in Rome. No, you didn't, but you know, great, whatever. But it's something that's incredibly painful for us. We're operational in 3 cities in the UK, 3 cities in Germany. I could think of 4 very obvious ones where we would be tomorrow in Italy, where regulations, not necessarily to change actually, but where regulations, local regulations, be brought up to date with something that has already been decided on EU level. I think as far back as 2006. I mean, look, we're clearly very firmly with ETOA in the camp of, we believe that regulating protected markets for tour guiding are bad for the customer. It's not to say that licensed guides cannot be good guides. It's not to say that many licensed guides are not excellent guides. But there are a lot of licensed guides who are not great guides. And I think that in many cases, the sort of 2-year sort of in time investment shows a level of commitment, undoubtedly, and professionalism and dedication to becoming a tour guide. It makes sure that ensures that the knowledge is firmly there. But I think that it's got to be sort of stating the blindingly obvious that the final exam for a tour guide license in one European country that will remain unnamed, being an 8,000-word essay, dissertation, being perhaps not the best sort of way to establish whether someone can get in front of a group of people and engage them and inform them and entertain them. So it's a crying shame. We hope, of course, that it will change. We do operate in one market where licensing, where the market is regulated with licensed guides, and that's Israel. Of course, perhaps the kind of uber sort of sensitive kind of socio-political type of historical, religious type of themes going on there. I don't think we would ever do it again. You have to sort of make your peace with working with many guides who are, particularly in the early days, substandard. It's a limitation of market, which unfortunately doesn't make sense for us. And the true tragedy of it is that the people who pay for it are the customer and the travellers. They don't have the same experience that they would do without regulation. I met someone actually at at a conference a couple of years ago in Dublin. It was a WISTIC conference, and a lovely kind of fellow, and he kind of saw my name tag and said, "Oh, you fundamentally do the walking tours. I also do walking tours as well." And I said, "Oh, where do you do them? And we love that stuff. And where is it?" And he said, "It's in Rome." And I said, "Wow, you use licensed guides?" And he said, "No." And I was like, "How do you do that then? It's a protected market." And he said, "We're Italian, which is great. But I'm confident that it will change. I'm confident that it will change.
Thank you, David. We have a question.
David Tarsh, I do media relations on behalf of ETOA and others. My question is for you, Philip. It seems to me that it's long been clear that Google's business has been eating the lunch of the intermediary in the travel industry because of the way that you connect the consumer to the ultimate provider of the service. I was intrigued by your observations on bits of the travel industry that are broken, where you think Google will go next. My question is, how long will it be before you decide that the combination of TripAdvisor and Viator is broken and you decide to eat their lunch?
Good question. So basically, I would state it obviously a little bit different. So you could also say what I hear a lot talking with hoteliers and also like as advisor of the HTV school in Core. I hear a lot that the same is said, for example, from Booking.com from the hoteliers, right? So they are not happy with how much business is going through Booking.com, and they have to pay 15-20% of commission, right? So they're not happy with that. And I think it goes a lot back to what I tried to get you over during my presentation. I think it's a lot about the user experience, where you have to see, all right, where are you relevant, where do you bring a good user experience, and where you're not. And this is, if the user experience is not ideal, or if there are lacking, like if you don't look after your customer as you should, if you don't use digital, which is clearly the biggest asset of digital, is that you get a lot of information from people. If you listen to them, the cost of doing a survey is almost zero right now. So you have to listen to the needs of your customers, and then to bring the customer experience that is wanted, right? So I would see it this way. Are we going to eat anybody's lunch? You can also see it differently. If somebody does a great job, and if you have new devices coming out the next couple of years, Google might not be relevant. We try to be extremely relevant. We try to give you the answers that you're looking for on our products, and this is how we are motivated every day. Viator does a great job. I mean, I think it's very important not to mix up everything. We can never, ever do such a job as you do, right? I think right now it seems that we do a good job. Many users come back to us because their needs are satisfied, and they trust us to give them the right answer. And this is why we're relevant. And hopefully we are also relevant in 5 years. And this is very hard to say where this is going to go. Maybe just one thing, there was the DMO question a couple of minutes ago. And I think what I talk a lot to DMOs, and I think it's a lot about transformation, right? You see what is going on with us, with TripAdvisor, with Booking.com, with whoever. You see the whole ecosystem, the user experience changing. And what I am missing a little bit of many DMOs is that they are transforming as well. I would see the task of many DMOs is, from my point of view, consulting their clients in the destination towards digital. So that means educate educate, that means benchmark, that means for the little players to give them scalable solutions. So a lot of little players, they are already struggling to get up their information on a useful mobile web page. So I think this could be, and I'm having this talks a lot, also like for example with Swiss tourism, etc. That I think it's not anymore just about doing marketing for the country. It's about helping all the players in whatever region you're responsible for to bring their information in the way that is needed today. So a lot of data is needed to bring it to the marketplace that are relevant. The experience needs to be extremely well in smartphone. And what we are in many countries struggling with, not only in Switzerland, is that the information is just not there in the right way, right? And if you see at all things going on, there is always change, and the change is faster. So this agility to bring in a destination, I think this would be the main task of DMO nowadays.
Hi, Mario Bodini, Chairman of ETOA. A couple of questions for David. One, the commission model, how you pay your OTA and third-party distributors commission on a free trip fascinates me. You may or may not be able to answer that. So, secondly, you mentioned that you've not exactly been welcomed with open arms in certain cities. When that happened, did you get, what kind of support, if any, did you get from the local tourist boards, local authorities and such like? It's interesting to see what view they took. And thirdly, just general observation on the user experience. I rent cars quite regularly and I find it such a painful experience. Every time I try and rent a car, the amount of information I have to give time and time again. Then when I get to the car and there's a little scratch on the wheel, I have to try and find the man and note it. It's one of the most awful experiences there and it has to be improved. So, thoughts for the day.
It's called Drive Now. Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you. In answer to the first question, the principal way that we work with via travel sort of OTAs, Viator and Expedia and Get Your Guide and the like, is exclusively for our paid walking tours. And we highlight the problem absolutely with a free tour. It's very difficult. It's not that it's not worth €1 commission for us to pay to Viator as an acquisition customer cost. With the statistics before of 45% of those people converting onto a paid tour, the margins are there. It's more a problem with bookings versus redemptions. Again, when you book a free tour, you've only made a psychological and a monetary sort of commitment to the tour. And we have many, many cases, we see it every day, where travellers have booked free tours through our website on Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 10 a.m, 11 a.m, 12 p.m, and 2 p.m. every single day, because why not, right? And I'm safe and I'm in one place. Havoc with our capacity management, but there's very little to stop them doing that. We have actually spoken with Andrew, I think, before about ways to incorporate the free tour, either the commission being based on redemptions or measuring breakage rates and having the free tour, the commission was to be €1 and the breakage percent is 50, then it's 50%, then it's 50 cents. And I think that perhaps kind of creatively incorporating the free tour as automatic add-ons to other services, either our own paid services on the OTAs, or ones that aren't necessarily competitive, as well as a kind of extra add-on, using the free tour as a save when people click away from Viator as well. So many ideas that we're working on, but at the moment, principally, it's reserved for the paid tours. In terms of local authorities and how they sort of supported us with these difficulties, it was incredibly varied, to be honest. We were talking actually yesterday. I was talking with David from the ETOA about is it really true that press is no such thing as bad press. We were sort of all over the national news for a little while when we first entered the market in Spain, and did get sort of it's not hyperbole to say that we were sort of, chased out of that market by the licensed and the official guides. They very regularly come to our meeting points. It was attracted a lot of media attention, consistently kind of interrupting the guides, shouting over them, holding signs, saying they were illegal and pirates and all that kind of stuff. And at one point actually, we opened in Madrid, I think it was in 2008, and we closed in 2010 because we just couldn't, the guides were motivated and they were invested in the product, but it was just an awful environment. It's so difficult to come to work every day with that, with that kind of thing going on. And eventually we had to close up shop, and we came back 3 years later to fight again. The response from the tourism, the response from the sort of government and the authorities was to sue us initially, which wasn't great. We didn't have much luck with the sort of local police or local tourism boards really either. I do have to say though that since coming back in 2013-14, things really did calm down in Spain, and we have been sort of very close partners of the Tourism Association, have very close contacts in there. I think, free tours and, unlicensed, I just hate the term, qualified or licensed or guides. We have to come up with something else, I think our guides are also licensed and certainly professional and certainly qualified, but the sort of, government licensed guides, let's say. I think that, free tours and unlicensed, guides have just become the norm. It's become standardised and professionalised over the years. Yeah.
A question for Andrew. You said when you're talking that you're not a tour operator, which I understand, but you are selling and selling harder and harder, it seems. And I wondered, with the initially TripAdvisor started out independent advice to also seen, and now obviously you are advising and selling those things that maybe people like or higher rankers. I don't know how it works exactly. And I wondered if you've got any kickback from people who used to use your site in cynicism, people thinking, well, actually they're just selling to me now rather than just advising.
I'm not consumer facing, so the amount of customer feedback that I get is fairly limited. Usually something only arrives on my desk that's really bad. But in terms of the reviews and the business side of things, it is and always has been kept completely separate. Anyone that's got a business listed on TripAdvisor would be able to testify how difficult it is to get a bad review amended or removed, and we just simply don't do that. And actually, it's from it's ongoing from the conversation we've been having earlier on. Based on those officials that determine what is a quality experience or what is an experience that should be in a destination, we would prefer to trust the view of 350 million users about what they think about a product rather than what a government official thinks. And so, in terms of how we're trying to marry the two, we keep them completely separate. So the reviews is just the way that we list products on TripAdvisor. So we'll give the user the opportunity to view things based on their review rating. It's completely independent of what we have a book now button on and what we don't. And you'll see, I'm sure, gaps there with companies that we don't necessarily work for. Some of them are ranked very highly on our pages that we haven't necessarily agreed a contractual relationship with them before. And it's the same on Viator as well. The reviews are completely separate. We make it extremely difficult for anyone to remove or have a review not in place. It's the most important thing, apart from anything, in terms of driving conversion. And I think that once you start tampering with that, you're onto a very slippery slope, and you probably start to see a decline in business as a result of it.
Thank you. It's, Tom Jenkins from ETOA. Guys, you're all perfectly charming. And yet you represent something which for a lot of people in the industry is a genuine threat. What's so odd about disruptive processes in the travel industry is it's all so old. And what is being provided here is not unusual. We've had Zagat consumer-based ratings taking place in the past. We've had doormen working for hotels not being paid for hundreds of years. They've been doing it for nothing on the process or proceeds of opening doors and hailing taxis. I had member companies sell the right to conduct the most productive tours in their portfolio. This is not new. Airbnb is not new in terms of the fact that people have been letting out bed and breakfast since the dawn of time. Uber merely provides what the minicab services have been doing city to city throughout Europe. What is new is the information. What is new is the ability of people to find out this information. And the people who are threatened by this process are the people who had a monopoly on information. These are the people who are the real victims. Now, none of you get out of bed with your businesses and say, right, we're going to wipe out some obsolete twit today. The businesses who die in this process really are roadkill. You don't intend to hit them. They just end up being hedgehogs and various other animals lying by the side of the road. Now, I'm not asking any of you who's going to be victims of this monopolist of information death process that we're going to be witnessing over the next 15 years. I'm interested to know who you think one of your co-panelists are going to kill. So, David, who is at most danger from Philip's activity? Philip, who is at most danger from Andrew's activity? And Andrew, who is at most danger from Sandeman? Those are the three questions I leave you with.
Fantastic.
Just one thing, I'm amazed about this, I don't know, the feelings of fear in this room. So normally I don't feel that much. So I know that it's all about eating lunch and killing each other, etc. So I don't know. Maybe it's because it's close to lunchtime. I don't know. So I hope nobody has to die for getting lunch. So, what should I say? I think I have no clue who's gonna be disrupted or whatever. I think what I hear and what I really believe in is transparency and transparency about quality. So if I look at the business, which was extremely interesting to hear more about it, and I think it's great. I was also on, maybe not with you, but on 3 walking tours in Zurich, and I'm from Zurich, and I learned so much, and it was so funny, it was fantastic, and we gave the guy a really big tip at the end, so I think it's great, and I believe in quality, and that you are paid by quality, and that this is transparent, who delivers quality. So that's why I, for example, also love Uber, right? Why do I love Uber? Because, and again, you could say, right, Uber is eating the lunch of many taxi organizations. Why is that happening? Basically, it's happening because probably all travel a lot. In most cities, I take a taxi. The customer service is just so bad. I cannot say how bad it is. It's unbelievable bad. I get treated really that I even am allowed to be in that cab and to drive from A to B. This is already a miracle. So I love Uber because if I get such an experience in Uber, and I really talk about the real Uber experience, not the one you, for example, have in Berlin, where you get in a cab and you have it ordered by Uber. I go more in the direction than I have, for example, in California. I have a Uber, I have a driver who's really enjoying himself, who likes to have me as a customer, who opens the door, I get in, who offers me even water. He doesn't get anything for that, he just gets a 5-star out of that. And this is what I believe. I believe nobody needs to be fearful or whatever. I think this transparency thing that is going on here is perfect for all those who deliver great service and great quality, because it's much easier to stand out than it was before, where information was hidden and you first had to have a bad experience, and you could not even tell it to a lot of more people that this experience is really bad.
Are you going to kill anyone?
I think the quality of experience is the most important thing, and the openness is important. I think there's a bit of a misconception that companies like TripAdvisor and Google are driving change. They're not. They're just making the marketplace extremely open, and then the customer and the consumer is driving change. And that's happened throughout centuries. People would gravitate towards a better business, and the past is littered with companies that have failed because they've failed to keep up with change and actually failed to react to what their customers want. And actually what we're doing is just shining a light on exactly what each business offers and what exactly the customer experience is with each of those businesses. And that's the most enlightening and most important thing that we can do. Otherwise we go back to state monopolies, and that's not a very good place to be.
I think it is, just very briefly if I may, I think it is interesting what's going on with the sort of, in many cases, quite unrelated diversification of some of these sort of giant digital companies. Uber looking at sort of food delivery services at the moment, Google branching out into travel and tourism, and it sort of does make me think of whether in 10 years' time we will receive a return of the conglomerate, the conglomerate having died out sort of 20 years ago, or traditionally anyway, and whether we will see the sort of return of the modern conglomerate. I think that as these guys have said and have expressed, I think that really the people, to answer your question, Tyler, the people who are at risk from any sort of good service provider is people who are doing who are delivering poor service, who don't have the customer in mind as the major stakeholder, and refuse to adapt, think that they are owed a living, and I think those guys are. Everyone really is at risk, be it by Google or be it by anyone else.
Quality never dies. That's a very good place to end it all. And it's just about time for lunch and some exercise. And we will do the exercise first with me. So I will ask you to raise your hand and do like this. And take the other hand. Do like this. That means 2:15. You have to be back in this room. And also, if you are done before, if you're done eating before that, you have another option at 13:40. That's 1:40. You can do that exercise too yourself. But Alan is going to tell us what that's about.
Lovely, thank you very much. We don't have to do this 40 times. So. 13:40, you have the opportunity to go down to the Swiss Chocolate Experience Adventure. And you're almost welcome to do it, so you're never that close as right now. So please be welcome. 17:20 would be the other option a little later. And whoever would want to go through the museum once more, just give me a head cap and I might walk through in half an hour. So, bon appetit.
And the final applause for our panel. Thank you.
Very good speakers.
There's still a bit of delay. I caught up that actually it's kind of good when the connection does drop out because it starts afresh, but
It's quite a good panel of speakers. It was quite interesting.
we've had up to 7 viewers.
How many?
7.
That's not bad.
Probably all in the office, but
True. We're driving Leon crazy at the moment, probably. Okay, so I'm probably over tweeting, but I don't
no, that's pretty good.
know. Just like everyone needs to get on tweet. Very nice panel. Well done to Nick, because it was like a good combination of.
Huh?
It was a good combination of companies, so he did quite well. Thank you. Aaron.
How's it going? Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Enjoy. Yes, it was very interesting, very educative. Like the metaphor with the robot. They all dodged it though.
What?
They all dodged the question.
That's quite right too. Anne Wilson, of course, is misbehaving horribly with these things. That's scary. Excuse me.